Sean Kelly interviews Anne Marie Fleming and Keira Jang on Can I Get a Witness? Like and subscribe for more content like this. So I guess I'll start by what was the inspiration behind Can I Get a Witness?
Well, I used to live in the West End in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and back in 2006, there was a huge windstorm that blew down 10,000 trees. And we started to get the king tides that were eroding the seawall every year, and you couldn't walk around. And then there were, like earthquakes. I became like a volunteer actually for Vancouver Volunteer Corps about like earthquake preparedness. I just started having general climate anxiety about everything. And at the same time, um, Canada was thinking of moving CPP, like old age pension, like up, like move the years up, like from 65 to 67. And I mean, I was not 50 then. And I thought this was all kind of, funny. So I thought that this is something that I would like to comment on. I'd like to comment on our climate anxiety, climate change, but also on our aging population. And I took as my inspiration Jonathan Swift, who's like a Irish English novelist, essayist, philosopher, activist. He wrote a thing called A Modest Proposal about the potato famine in Ireland, where he suggested that the Irish eat their babies. It could help with lowering their population and also give them some excellent protein. And this was obviously a very harsh farce. A lot of people took him seriously. A lot of people got very angry, but there was discussion and things did change. So that was my inspiration. And I thought that at the time, 50 was ridiculous. It's like everybody wants things to change, everybody wants things to be better, but it is going to take some sacrifice. And what are we willing to do? If we're not willing to go there, surely there's other things that we could do. It is going to take sacrifice. And what happened between then and now, COVID, where this is a kitchen table conversation. And also you can see how quickly things can change and how governments can all do the same thing at the same time, how we are all experiencing things at the same time. Now, climate change is on the front page, like everybody's experiencing it, like craziness all the time. We don't agree about why or how, but we can't disagree that things are changing. And so yeah, and now there's MAID, like, and countries are having this conversation all over the world. Is it okay to make the decision to, leave on your own terms or not? And people are talking more about that. And so this whole film that started off as more farcical became just a lot more tender and touching really what we've been going through and we're going through now and will continue to. So it became a lot softer. And I think it became uh, like kind of a celebration, kind of like a love letter in some ways, it's like how beautiful this world is, and how precious our lives are.
Yeah, well, I think the premise of this film is actually pretty popular right now because last year I also saw the release of Caitlin Cronenberg's Humane, which takes a more cynical approach to this premise. Uh, for Kira, how would you describe your character's arc in the film?
Yeah, I think the way that she handles this intense world that she's living in is really true to pluck a 16, 17-year-old out of right now, and it's this immense grief that you don't really understand yet. And so demonstrating that both with interpersonal relationships with people and then also your relationship with the climate and explaining and experiencing that grief from both ends, I think was really fascinating to dive into as the character who has all these feelings and doesn't know how to process them and is looking for someone to be mad at but doesn't really know who or um, what she's going through and learning all these new things at the same time and questioning. It's definitely something that I can relate to thinking back on my teen years of understanding, nothing but wanting to understand everything at the same time.
Yeah, well, I came up with the idea of having teenagers be the leads and shooting up in Powell River because I was like a guest a guest artist at the digital film school up there, where it was like high school kids were learning how to make films, and also I was teaching animation. And I was just so like Powell River just was the world that I was thinking of. I went, oh, this is already like a walk back a bit, of like the speed of modern life. And these kids were so amazing, so talented, dealing with huge issues, like personal, global, everything, but they're just kids still. And so I understand that between 17 and 18, like your frontal cortexes like are touching. I don't know if you've heard this or if this is true, but it sounds good. And so they don't touch until you're 18. For some people, probably a lot older. And so you have amazing capacity, but you also don't necessarily know how to, connect all the dots. And so I was really interested in this time of life.
Well, I thought like an interesting scene in the film was the like group therapy session, and you could tell like how little these people know about our current world, and like how I don't know, it's like Zoolander is like a cultural relic.
Well, that is supposed to be a scene. I don't know how. I'd like to hear your version of this, Kira. But it's like, what if you could say things like, "Oh my God, there was a time when people were poorer than other people," and for that not to be imaginable, like, oh my God, how awful. Or, like I know it sounds so silly in some ways, but imagine, like imagine a world where these kinds of, all the problems are gone and we can't imagine how they were ever there. Like, who would have done that?
Yeah, it's funny actually talking about that scene. I remember having a conversation with a few of the other actors that day and thinking about it. It was kind of inspiring to think that this world feels so far away of like inequality and everything. So it was definitely something that, okay, watching it in current time feels, oh my, these kids don't understand anything that came before them, but then also feeling this, oh, I hope that could happen, you
Yeah.
know?
And they're far enough away from 50 not to feel it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're
Exactly.
far enough away from 21.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I have to ask about the casting of Sandra Oh in the film. We worked together on Window Horses before, and the mother-daughter relationship she shares with Kira's character.
Oh, well, it's interesting. Sandra would describe it this way, that she's kind of like an ideal version of a mother. Like she's so kind, she's so sensitive, she's so giving, she's walking the walk, and everything is for her daughter. And actually, obviously not everything we shot got in the film. There's it's like, but the things that she says are so kind, So Sandra was interested in this film because of her own meditative practice, and she's very interested in about acceptance of death. And it's interesting too because neither Sandra or I are mothers. We don't have children, but I guess we're mother figures, like, and what I wanted to show in this film is that we all have to be mother figures, right? We have to bring up everybody. We have to treat everybody the same way, regardless. But yeah, I didn't, when I first thought about this film, Ellie does not have to be Kiah's biological mother, but it was so interesting. People want that to be true, right? They want it. And of course, Sandra being Asian and Keira being, part Asian, that people are going to see that. They want to see that bond.
Kira?
Well, I think it was such a it was shocking also to read this script and then find out that Anne Marie wasn't a mother because it felt like such a perfect mother-daughter relationship. And I think my character, she can be really rude and mean to her mom, but like you said, she kind of was this perfect mother who just understood all that and understood why she was feeling that way, even when Kiah didn't understand why she was acting out that way to her mom. So I think, yeah, and then just having Sandra, who's an incredible person, just understand that fully and to know what it's like to be, like you said, a mother figure in that sense, I think was really, really telling.
I have to ask about the incorporation of animation in the film. So, was that always the intention?
Mhm. Well, my background is in animation as well, so
Mhm.
it's a way of storytelling for me that is, I don't. It's just it's an option. It's a tool, and Kiah is a witness. She draws end of life ceremonies in a world where you have to repress your emotions quite a bit to be able to go through with what you need to do. And so I wanted the drawings to show her emotional world, all the things that she couldn't express. And yeah, originally there was going to be a lot more animation in the film, and then we shot it. And it was such an emotional experience for the actors and I think for the audience that we just needed some touches of the animation to remind you that this is a fable. This is not the real world, but to remind you that there are other stories going on than the ones that are just on the surface.
I do admit that this film kind of affected me a lot because, well, for starters, I'm in my 40s, so in this world, I would have less than a decade to live. So, I like noticed, even though you try to have like an optimistic output, there are certain like dark undertones to the story, like that one scene I don't want to spoil, but and just how was the challenge trying to strike that balance?
Oh, death, death, death. It's hard to talk about death, death, death without being a little dark, dark, dark. So, but death is something that we all have to come to terms with. Like it's interesting in Western culture anyway, we just don't ever want to deal with it, and it happens far away, but we are all dealing with it all the time. I mean, it's sort of like our purpose here. That's what we all do. That's what we all share. And none of us are like really that down with it. And but I would say that even that scene that you are referring to, that if you listen to the sound, there is a ricochet.
Oh, for Kira, so your character is pretty much struggling with pretty much seeing death for the first time. So, how would you describe your arc throughout the film?
Yeah, I mean, she starts off not really fully understanding what she's going into. She's been told these stories and kind of understood that this is just the world that she's been brought into, but not having experienced that firsthand yet, you can't really expect anything. And so that first time that she witnesses, I think, really shifts her perspective and it makes her doubt for the first time and I think, well, maybe not for the first time, but definitely experience that fully and I think that really shifts how she feels about the whole process and raises all these questions, whereas in the beginning, maybe she just thought this was her duty. This is what she's supposed to do. This is what everyone before her has done. And then actually seeing it firsthand, I think, is really when, is this right? Is this what we should be doing? Was this the only path? Those questions start getting raised for sure.
Well, at least she gets to enjoy duck soup.
Yeah, buddy, that moment in Duck Soup where the projector starts and she looks at the projector.
Oh!
Yeah, and also this is video, right? So these are props from the film.
Mhm.
There's foxgloves because also this is like an insider thing, is that digitalis purpura is the drug of choice. Digitalis is a heart medication.
Mhm.
And also it's a toxin. There's no part of this plant that's not toxic.
It's an interesting way of like doing those types of ceremonies because you wouldn't expect like a box with like a purple gas coming out.
Yeah, I know. It's like how do you show how do you show the agent of death? And it's beautiful. And that's why we showed it like, because it's the cycle of life. This, bees can pollinate this and dogs can vomit.
Okay, that's a good note to end on.
Okay, is it? Is that our note?
Yeah, that's our time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for profiling our film.
Sean Kelly on Movies Interviews is part of the SK on Movies podcast network. You can access links to all our shows by going to skonmoviespodcast.ca or search us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or where else you listen to your podcasts. This has been a production of Sean Kelly on Movies.